Hi guys, it's Phoebe. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about the books that I read in the month of March and the books that I'm hoping to get to in the month of April. I would like to start off by saying so sorry for not posting my second video of the month like I normally do. Time just really got away from me this month, and I just never felt like I had the time or the inspiration to film that video like I normally do. But I'm hoping to get back to my 2 videos a month for this month. So stay tuned for that in another couple of weeks or so. That being said, let's hop right into the books that I finished this past month. For starters, we can talk about my YA reads. I read The Conference of Birds in the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. I also, at the end of the month, finished The Desolations of Devil's Acre, which is the final book in the series that came out last month. I think The Conference of Birds is the one that I really liked. These books honestly kind of blurred together for me, which I think overall as a series kind of shows that it was a little disappointing that the books actually blended together. I think I liked this one because it was a little shorter, it didn't drag on. Felt like the characters had stakes. I felt like the characters were really well fleshed out in this one. And it got me really excited for the final book coming out and getting to read it and finish the series and all that. Unfortunately, The Desolations of Devil's Acre really just felt flat for me. I mean, I guess I feel like the series' big takeaway is like having found families and things like that, and that sometimes your family doesn't understand you and that it's okay to, like, you know, if that relationship isn't serving you in any way, it's okay to move on to like your new family that loves and appreciates you and supports you and all that. But overall, the characters I feel like aren't super fleshed out. And then also none of the main characters like died or had anything really bad happen to them. Like, characters die in this series, but it's never like the main ones. Like, they always somehow pull through. And to me, that made the stakes seem really low. Like, I wasn't really worried about people making it to the end of the series. Overall, I think the issue was that maybe this is less of a YA series and more of like a middle grade age group that it's targeted towards, and that just doesn't really do it for me. I felt like it was, you know, it's just not mature enough for my tastes. So and you know, maybe if middle grade is more your thing, you won't have the same issues that I do with the series. But that's how I ended up feeling about it overall. Didn't really love the last book. Another book that I read was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I honestly went into this book and I thought that I wasn't going to like it because I had seen a lot of YouTubers kind of rip on it. I loved this book. This book was a 5-star for me. Loved the main character. Thought the romance was fun. Thought the action was fun. I loved the world that she built. I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a good time. You know, it's not something that's going to leave you with a lot to think about, but I mean, if you're looking for some good escapist YA fantasy, this is freaking perfect, especially if I also, the main character is like a girl who doesn't really fit in and she loves to read books. So I feel like that's just super targeted towards like YA fantasy readers, but, I really enjoyed this a lot. And I also liked the other book, Margaret Rogerson wrote, An Enchantment of Ravens, which is totally just like a fluffy fairy, again, YA fantasy thing. And so she's got another book coming out later this year. These are all like standalone books, which I also really enjoy because you can kind of just like get in, enjoy your characters, and like be done with it and not be like, oh, when's the next one coming out? So she's got another standalone, I think, that's coming out this year. So I'm really looking forward to that because I think this is like one of my authors to watch. I also read Namina Forna's new release, the Gilded Ones. I really wanted to like this book. It sounded super interesting, because the premise is that the main character in the society of this book, girls have like a coming of age ritual where they like bleed, and they find, and if they bleed, normal blood, they're a normal person. If they bleed golden blood, they've been cursed, and get like outcast from society. Obviously, our main character is going to bleed gold. And the like synopsis that I read online before I got it was that this woman comes to get her, and takes her away from her family, and she becomes part of like this secret army for the emperor of her like world. At the end of the day, though, I thought this book was kind of disappointing because any like plot twist moment I found super predictable, to the point where it was like, why are the like characters surprised by this like twist? Also, there is also a romance in this book that really didn't do it for me. And I mean, like, Sorcery of Thorns is really heavy. For example, Sorcery of Thorns is really heavy on the romance, but I liked the way the author did it, and I liked the characters, so it didn't bother me to read it. This book has a romance in it that seems to come like completely out of left field, because what is the main character's name? Dika. She gets taken away, bleeds gold, gets taken away to join the secret army, and the girls have like these warrior companions that are male, and like of course Dika like falls in love with her like male companion. But again, about it coming out of left field, they don't really have any chemistry with each other. They just, 1 minute are just like they're warrior companions, and then the next minute it's talking about how, they're holding hands and Dika feels great about it or something. I don't know. It overall just didn't really do it for me. It is part of a series. I don't honestly know if I'll pick up the next book in the series. It's not one that I'm looking forward to, or that I'm really excited about. That's for sure. So disappointed by that one. Going into my like adult reads for this month, I finally freaking finished, after like 3 months, Written in My Own Heart's Blood by Diana Gabaldon. It's the last book that's out so far in the Outlander series. She says that there's another one coming, and even that one is supposed to not be the last one in the series. I don't know. I'm so over this series. I felt like this one was better than some of the last few ones before it. It felt like it had at least a little plot, but for the most part, it just kind of was bouncing back and forth like on the day-to-day lives of the many, many characters that Diana has introduced at this point. Like there's one, and it's so overdone and unnecessary at parts. There's one scene where it's like a double or like triple wedding. A bunch of characters get married at the same time, and there's like multiple, like it's probably just one chapter, but it feels like it's forever. And it's just sex scenes of the different characters at the wedding, like the people that got married, the couples that were there at like guests at the wedding. Super unnecessary, did nothing for the plot, did nothing for the characters, did nothing for anything. It's just, at this point, it's like Diana just like, she just feels like she just keeps writing to write because she likes the characters and wants to see where they're going, but I don't care anymore. Yeah. Funnily enough, after reading all these Outlander books that are about Scottish people in the 18th century coming from Scotland and going to America, I read this Ken Follett book, A Place Called Freedom, and it's a book that I didn't know anything about. I probably at one point read the synopsis, but then I didn't read it before I picked it up this time because I was like, surprise me. It's about a Scottish man coming from Scotland to America in the 18th century. It has a lot to do with because the Scots were being oppressed by the English during that time period. It's about, he is trying to flee that oppression in Scotland and ends up coming to America as an indentured servant and is still being oppressed. So the main character is like that one Scottish guy who like works in the coal mines and stuff, and then comes over as an indentured servant. The other main character is a young woman who is like highborn. She's like a lady, and she ends up coming over to America as well, and it's like their lives are intertwined, and then obviously it ends up being a romance between the two of them. And it's just her, it's kind of her being like, I'm a poor little rich girl who ends up being like disillusioned by realizes how she is well off, but it's on the backs of like oppressing other people. I was surprised by how much I ended up liking this book at the end of the day. It did have some moments where Ken Follett was describing like the main female character and being like, she wasn't like, literally there's like one sentence where it says she's not like other girls, and moments like that kind of took me out of the story. But for the most part, it was a good read. Talked a lot about workers' rights, as these characters are maneuvering like class struggles in that time period. So overall, I thought it was a pretty decent book. And funnily enough, right after reading that book that was so much about workers' rights, I read Kristen Hanna's new book, The Four Winds, which I really liked. It's not my like new favorite Kristen Hanna book. I think she definitely has others that I have enjoyed more, but still, of course, loved it. Loved her exploration of family. Loved her writing style. Beautiful. But this is about a woman who is from Texas during like the Great Depression, Dust Bowl era, and ends up taking her family to California to try to escape starvation, basically. And so it also ends up being a lot about workers' rights because 200 years after like the time period of the other book that I was reading, workers were still being exploited by businesses or like the wealthy class. And like when whoever is employing them makes them live in lodging that they provide and makes them buy things like through a company store, or like takes whenever they get goods, like takes it out of their wages, things like that, where you are keeping the working class down so they can never get ahead because you always keep them in your debt. So that was a big theme in both of In a Place Called Freedom and The Four Winds. Another thing I will say about this book, very like Kristen Hanna-esque, as I've come to find, the ending is very bittersweet. It doesn't end, it's in some ways like very happy and you're happy for the characters. In other ways, it's not what you would have wanted for them. So it is a little sad that way. But I do really like that about her books because I feel like when I'm going into the book expecting, when I know that the story is not going to be like tied up with a neat little bow and everything is going to be perfect for everyone, like it does give me a sense of like the stakes being higher. Like I'm worried about the characters because I don't really know if things are going to turn out well for them. But at the same time, like I am also like hopeful because I'm like, whatever she gives me, there's going to be something good about it that makes me, it leaves you with like hope for the future of the characters even beyond the end of the book. So enjoyed that one very much. And then I finished The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Again, I don't even know how to critique these books really. I feel like they're like classics and they're like untouchable. And I do also really enjoy them. I think they're good books. I enjoyed this one a lot, like the first one. And I read one nonfiction last month. It was The Day the World Exploded, August 27th, 1883, Krakatoa, by Simon Winchester. I didn't love this book. This is one that in a different video I had discussed was just a book that I had kind of grabbed off from my parents when they were like, get rid of these books or read them yourself, whatever you want to do. And I held on to it because I don't know, learning is good. But I feel like I didn't really learn that much, and it kind of like lacked organization and like purpose. A lot about geology that I guess I wasn't expecting, which I should have since it's a book about a volcano. But I don't know. I can't really recommend this to you. I can't really imagine that anyone has like a deep secret interest in the eruption of Krakatoa in 1883. But I mean, I read it. I guess I earned some brain cells, but that's all I have to say about that one. Going into the books that I'm hoping to finish in the month of April, I am currently reading The Return of the King, obviously the last book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I had desperately hoped to finish this before the 1st of April, but that didn't happen. But still having a good time with that series, obviously. I'm also currently reading Entering Space, Creating a Spacefaring Civilization by Robert Zubrin. It doesn't matter. I am not loving this book either. It's, first of all, not really what I expected, just based off the title. Also, when I got it, I'm dumb and I didn't realize how old it was. This book came out in either 99 or 2000, a hot minute ago. So listening to him talk about space exploration now, 20 years later, it's so vastly different. Like, he's talking about how flawed it is that all space exploration programs are run by the government. There's no privatization in that sector, and now that's not true. Like, there's SpaceX and other things like that. Also, I don't like how the author is really, I feel like, confident in himself and his own theories, and will just be like, these are some theories about some things, and this is why it's really stupid, and here's my theory, and here's why it's good. I don't know. It just comes off as very abrasive, like not a guy that you would want to be like, trapped at a party, like talking to. Just comes off as like a really douchey guy. Does that make sense? So anyway, I might not be critiquing these books at the in my next month's video, because again, Lord of the Rings, not really sure how to critique that or discuss that on my own, because they are such classics, and I do, again, just really like them. And then this one, I mean, I'm more than halfway through. I very strongly doubt that Zubrin is going to turn this around and make me enjoy his writing anymore. Other books that I'm hoping to get to that I have not started yet. Carl Sagan's book, A Vision of the Human Future in Space, Pale Blue Dot. Same theme, I guess, as the Entering Space book by Zubrin. But I'm hoping I enjoy this a little bit more. I did read Carl Sagan's Cosmos and really enjoyed that one. And then I have the only other book that I have that's not a new release is Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palprato, which is, I got this book forever ago. I believe it's about two sisters, and they're like Phoenix riders or something. One of them is good, one of them is bad, I think, from what I remember from other people's videos. Excited to read this one finally. Again, it's been on my shelf for a really long time. The other books that I want to read are new releases. This one came out in February, I want to say. It is A Community History of African America, 1619 to 2019. 400 Souls. It's a collection of, I want to say, short stories that's been compiled and edited by Ibram X. Kendi and Keisha N. Blaine. Then I have The Electric Kingdom by David Arnold. This is a book, I feel like I've talked about this already and said that did I talk about this already in a video about wanting to read it in a different month and I didn't get around to it? it is about a girl living in like a post-apocalyptic world where a flu has wiped out the population, and she goes through like a wormhole with her dog to a different dimension. So that sounds like a really good time to me, and I wish I could go through a wormhole with my dogs into a dimension without a pandemic. And then I also have Game Changer by Neil Shusterman. This is about a boy who plays football, and he gets a really bad concussion, and he starts falling through different dimensions or realities. That's kind of a theme there. That's 2 different dimension books. But anyway, excited to read that as well. Thank you very much for watching this video. As always, I apologize for the sheer chaos. Please stay tuned for future videos that will probably not improve. Let's be honest, this is who I am at this point. Bye!